The South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade, serving as one of the busiest and most important maritime corridors on the planet. Every day, countless vessels navigate its waters, carrying goods that touch nearly every corner of the globe. With trillions of dollars in goods passing through each year, the sea is a lifeline for the world's economies. From electronics and automobiles to food and fuel, the products shipped here keep factories running and store shelves stocked worldwide. Its strategic location links the Indian and Pacific Oceans, forming a crucial bridge between East and West. This connection powers the world economy, enabling efficient trade routes that save time, money, and resources for nations everywhere. Beneath its shimmering surface lie vast reserves of oil and natural gas, as well as some of the world's most productive fishing grounds. These resources are not only valuable, they are essential for energy security and food supplies across Asia and beyond. The promise of such wealth has made the South China Sea a focal point of competition among neighboring countries, each eager to secure their share of its bounty. Control over the sea means access to immense wealth, vital energy resources, and a steady supply of food for millions of people. For many coastal communities, their livelihoods depend on what the sea provides. Several nations, including China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei, have overlapping claims here, each backed by history, law, and national pride. These disputes are complex and deeply rooted, making resolution difficult. As a result, the region has become a hotspot of international tension, with frequent standoffs at sea and heated diplomatic exchanges on land. The risk of miscalculation is ever present. Any conflict here could disrupt shipping lanes, delay the delivery of goods, raise global prices, and threaten economic stability far beyond Asia. The ripple effects would be felt in markets and households around the world. The risk of military confrontation is real, with major powers, including the United States, closely monitoring developments and conducting their own patrols and exercises in these contested waters. What happens here affects people everywhere, making peace and stability in the South China Sea a global concern. World leaders and international organizations are watching, aware that the stakes could not be higher. The stakes are high, and the world cannot afford to ignore this critical waterway. Its future will shape the economic and political landscape for generations to come. The South China Sea is more than just a place on the map. It's a crossroads of commerce, resources, and power, where the interests of nations and the lives of millions intersect every single day. Tensions between China and the Philippines have escalated dramatically in recent years, drawing international attention to the South China Sea. What was once a simmering dispute has now become a flashpoint, with both sides unwilling to back down. At the heart of the conflict is China's sweeping claim over almost the entire South China Sea, marked by its controversial 9-dash line. This boundary, drawn unilaterally by Beijing, cuts deep into waters that are hundreds of miles from the Chinese mainland. These claims overlap with vast areas that the international community, including the United Nations, recognizes as part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. For the Philippines, these waters are not just lines on a map, they are vital for food, trade, and national identity. China enforces its claim with a formidable and ever-present fleet, patrolling the disputed waters day and night. The sheer scale and persistence of these patrols create a constant, intimidating presence for smaller nations like the Philippines. Chinese vessels have repeatedly been accused of aggressive actions, shadowing, blocking, and even using water cannons against Philippine ships. These confrontations are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader pattern of intimidation. Such dangerous encounters often occur during routine Philippine resupply missions to outposts in the disputed waters. Each standoff raises the risk of a miscalculation that could spiral into a larger conflict, threatening the safety of sailors and the stability of the region. Philippine officials have repeatedly denounced what they call bullying tactics by China, arguing that their country's legal rights are being trampled by a much larger and more powerful neighbor. The sense of injustice runs deep among the Filipino people. The dispute has become a classic David versus Goliath struggle. The Philippines insists it is simply defending its own waters, operating within its exclusive economic zone as defined by international law and a 2016 International Tribunal ruling in its favor. Yet China continues to ignore these legal decisions, acting as if the entire area is its own sovereign territory. Its Coast Guard and Navy operate with apparent impunity, rarely challenged directly on the water. At stake are not just lines on a map, but the rich marine resources, fisheries, and potential energy reserves beneath the sea. Control over these waters means economic security and strategic advantage, making the conflict about much more than just territory. Feeling the pressure, the Philippines has increasingly turned to friends and allies, such as the United States and other regional partners, seeking diplomatic, economic, and military support to counterbalance China's growing influence. The ongoing standoff is about more than sovereignty. It's about safety, the rule of law, and the future stability of the entire region. As both sides dig in, the world watches, hoping for a peaceful resolution to this high-stakes maritime dispute. Scarborough Shoal, a small ring of reefs just 120 nautical miles from the Philippines, is a flashpoint in the dispute. Once a vital fishing ground for Filipinos, it's now under effective Chinese control, with Coast Guard ships blocking access. Philippine vessels face risky maneuvers and intimidation from larger Chinese ships, including water cannon attacks. For the Philippines, the shoal is a symbol of sovereignty. For China, it's a strategic asset. If China builds a military outpost here, its power projection in the region would grow dramatically. The constant standoff makes Scarborough Shoal one of the most dangerous places in the South China Sea. Even a small incident could escalate, drawing in both countries' militaries and their allies. The world watches, fearing this flashpoint could ignite a wider conflict. For Filipino fishermen, the South China Sea dispute is not just a distant political issue. It is deeply personal and painfully real. Every day, their lives are shaped by the uncertainty and tension that hangs over these contested waters. For generations, entire families have depended on these rich fishing grounds for their daily bread. The sea has been their lifeline, a source of pride and tradition. But China's increasing control of Scarborough Shoal has upended this way of life, casting a shadow over their future. Now, Filipino fishermen regularly face harassment and intimidation. Chinese Coast Guard ships block their access, chase them away, and sometimes even seize their hard-earned catch. The threat is constant, and the risks are growing. Forced to venture into less productive and often more dangerous waters, many fishermen return home with empty nets. Their incomes have plummeted, and mounting debts weigh heavily on their families. The struggle to make ends meet grows harder with each passing season. Some have been left with no choice but to abandon fishing altogether, unable to support their loved ones. The loss of livelihood has torn at the fabric of these coastal communities, leaving many feeling hopeless and adrift. The psychological toll is immense. Each trip to sea is fraught with anxiety and fear. Will they return safely or face confrontation? The uncertainty gnaws at them, affecting not just their work, but their families and mental health. Yet, this struggle is about more than just economics. It is a fight for dignity, for the right to work, and for the preservation of their heritage. The fishermen stand together, determined to defend what is rightfully theirs. Their plight has become a powerful symbol of the human cost of the South China Sea conflict. Communities rally in protest, families share stories of loss and resilience, and the world is beginning to take notice. The Philippine government has stepped up efforts to protect its fishermen, deploying patrols and offering support. But the crisis remains urgent, and the stakes are higher than ever. For these coastal communities, international law and the question of sovereignty are not abstract concepts. They are matters of daily survival, shaping every decision and every hope for the future. The story of the Filipino fishermen is a stark reminder of what's truly at stake in the South China Sea. Not just territory, but the lives, dignity, and dreams of real people. The Philippines has strengthened alliances to counter China's pressure. Its most important partner is the United States, bound by a mutual defense treaty. The U.S. has reaffirmed its commitment, warning that attacks on Philippine forces could trigger its defense obligations. American warships conduct freedom of navigation operations, challenging China's claims. Australia and Japan have also deepened security ties, providing training and patrol vessels. Other countries, like Canada and the UK, have sent ships to show support for a free and open sea. Instead of isolating the Philippines, China's actions have united its neighbors and Western allies. This coalition is a powerful counterweight to Beijing's ambitions. The dispute is now a global test of the rules-based order. Joint military exercises are a key part of the Philippines' strategy with its allies. These drills build trust and practical cooperation, preparing forces to operate as a single team in a crisis. Exercises simulate defending islands, protecting sea lanes, and responding to threats. The presence of US, Australian, and Canadian troops sends a strong message of deterrence to China. For the Philippines, these drills are a chance to modernize and learn advanced tactics. The result? A more credible defense and a stronger, united front. Joint exercises both prepare for conflict and help keep the peace. In 2013, the Philippines challenged China's claims at the Permanent Court of Arbitration. The tribunal ruled in 2016. China's 9-dash line has no legal basis, and its actions violated Philippine rights. The decision was hailed globally as a victory for international law. Hopes were high for a peaceful resolution based on this clear legal judgment. China, however, rejected the ruling outright and intensified its activities in the sea. Beijing's refusal to accept the verdict is why the conflict persists. The case highlights a fundamental challenge: power versus law. China's stance undermines the global system meant to prevent such disputes. The world is left grappling with the consequences of a landmark ruling ignored. The legal path is clear, but enforcement remains elusive. The South China Sea dispute matters far beyond Asia. Any conflict here could disrupt global trade, causing shortages and higher prices worldwide. The standoff is a test of the international rules-based order. Can big powers ignore the law? China's rejection of the 2016 ruling sets a dangerous precedent. The risk of military escalation is ever present, with warships and aircraft from multiple nations in close quarters. A clash could quickly draw in the US, raising the stakes to a global crisis. The outcome will shape international security, the economy, and the future of global law. The world is watching, hoping for peace before it's too late. The future of the South China Sea is uncertain, with danger and opportunity intertwined. The Philippines and its allies are combining diplomacy with a stronger defense to deter China's aggression. The goal: raise the cost of escalation and create space for dialogue. But nationalism and miscalculation could still spark conflict. True peace requires diplomacy and respect for international law, not just military deterrence. Solutions could include a binding code of conduct, joint resource management, and crisis communication channels. China's assertiveness has unexpectedly strengthened alliances against it, shifting the balance of power. The challenge now is to use this unity to steer the region towards stability. All sides must step back from the brink and choose negotiation over confrontation. The fate of this vital region and the world's peace hangs in the balance.